listeners. For today's topic, we'll be discussing pro choice and why abortions should not be illegal. Now, this topic I think should have been one of our first. And obviously, from the way we introduced it, it should absolutely not be legal. But there are very many reasons for this, right? And to start, first and foremost, is there's so many different ways or different circumstances that someone can become pregnant, which may not be consensual. So to have the only means of actually going on with their lives taken away from them, that's just unacceptable in my eyes. I mean, at the end of the day, if I was raped or my daughter was raped and she decided she did not want to carry the monster's child, I don't think anyone has the right to tell her or force her for the next 9 months that she has to carry that child. So I am absolutely pro choice in this case.
And of course, I agree with that completely. I would just like to add that there's other reasons as well. There's financial considerations to take into account. There's considerations about furthering one's own education, your current age and state in society. So even if it's not to that extreme of a degree where somebody forced themselves upon you and now you're burdened with carrying their child, it could simply just be that you're not ready, or you don't feel that you're going to be with this person for the rest of your life, or that you won't be able to afford it. So it there really is a myriad of reasons, and it all comes down to the woman's choice, because she's the one who has to bear this burden, carry it to term, raise it afterwards. So she's the one who's going to have to make this decision with what she feels comfortable doing with her own body.
And I agree with that in so many different ways. And the financial aspect actually touches home, right? Because no matter how you look at it, I always hear it stated that, hey, you know, we want it to be pro-life. We want the child to be born. However, at the end of the day, when she carries the child to term and she is now a single mother and living on minimum wage and she can't take care of the child now she's doing two jobs, can't go back to school, can't get her education. What we hear is, oh well, you should have made better choices, right? You don't hear anyone that's praising this pro-life or singing this pro-life song. You never hear them go, well, let's increase taxes and build adoption agencies or homes for these children because maybe the mother isn't financially capable or financially able at taking care of the child. So uh, we all want to say yes, it should be pro-life and this is murdering the child or anything of that nature. But when it's time for the child to be born and actually raise that child, no one wants to chip in. So we want to force her to give birth to the child, even though she doesn't have the financial means, and then leave her alone with the child. And realistically speaking, the country doesn't care after the birth of that child if it makes it or not. If you look in California, there's what, almost a million homeless people right now. We, we don't care about what happens to that child after it comes out of her body. We don't want to pay $1 in taxes to help the child. We don't want to pay $1 in social services to help the mom. But somehow we want to tell her or force her to actually bring the child to term. And we definitely want to be able to just go and have promiscuous relations with her as well. And it's really an interesting, and by interesting, I mean sick system that we have going on here, in which we have objectified and continue to punish these women and take away their choices.
Indeed. And even if those institutions were implemented where they're able to care for these children afterwards, it still would just be another form of oppression, because here you're telling these poor women that they're forced to give birth to these children regardless of their feelings on the matter, and that the system now, because it has these buildings and personnel and money subsidies in place in order to care for these children, that they are now forced to give birth regardless of the situation or their feelings on the matter. So even if they did that, it would still be a step in the wrong direction. They shouldn't do that. If you do want to create a situation where there is an alternative for them once they make their own decision to keep the child, then that's fine. But the reason I bring this up is because there's the slippery slope of some government overreach based on those conservative politicians who are very based in religious constituents, that you have to be careful not to give them that power, because once they create the institution, they also will have control over that decision. And then you also brought up another good point where we're telling these young women and girls that they should look up to the party lifestyle and be able to date and interact with the opposite sex the same way that males do. But we also have to balance it out for them, because they're seeing the toxic male method of interacting with the opposite sex, which is unlimited sexual relations, promiscuity, multiple partners. And although that's all fine if you know what you're getting into and you choose that option, we should still present it in the complete light that lets them see all aspects of making those decisions, because toxic masculinity will dictate take as many partners as you can as quickly as you can and don't worry about the consequences. And then you're leaving all of the responsibilities up to the young women, who then have to decide whether or not to terminate the pregnancy. And that is not correct. They should have the choice, but they should also not bear all of the responsibility for it. It took two people to create that fetus, and it's two people that should have to bear the burden. So we have to not only be careful about giving certain groups within the government too much power over their bodies, but we also have to be careful about the message that we send to these young women about what they do prior to having to make that decision.
Absolutely. And it's definitely big on the mismessaging, because you rightfully said it there. And I can see even having this conversation that we're looking on slippery slopes ourselves, right? In the sense that even where you said it did take two to make that child or fetus or whatever stage, whatever we want to call it. But why I said slippery slope is we don't want to actually have them think that now we need to have a say, or the other party needs to have a say in whether or not an abortion takes place. Realistically speaking, it's her body. She has to carry it to term. She has to suffer through the pain. She has to take all the risk there and everything that's involved. That so it is her choice. She's the one that has to carry it. That should be hers and her choice only. And I do agree on my initial, I'd say, slip, but or better yet how it could be taken, right? The only thing I meant was that the other side, these pro-life people, what they seem to do is just attack the woman without actually providing solutions. How about them actually make it a lucrative choice? How about we do make it 100% a choice for the woman to make? And then, based on that, both sides get to go and give benefits and try to woo the woman to make one choice or the other. So it is her choice, but you can tell her you'll get this, and this if you choose to keep it, and you'll get this, and this if you choose to terminate the life. However, it is your choice overall. That choice is not taken from her, and that is really what matters. It's ensuring that she has that choice, because I mean, we've tried to control women from every aspect. What a woman calls fitting in, to when she's online, when she's partying. We're telling them that we're celebrating promiscuous behavior. You're free, go out and do everything. Oh, if don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. And we're sending these messages, and then if you really think about it, when it comes down to other protections for them, consent, we immediately go, well, we can't really prove it. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but we don't want to pursue it. When it comes time to actually protecting women, we really do a pretty bad job of it. We honestly do. And yeah, I think that this at least is a start, so that when we fail them on all these other levels, then at least they're not stuck holding that bag forever. Because if they're not prepared and they're forced to give birth to that child, it's not just their life that gets destroyed, right? That child does not get a quality life. I mean, there are a few children that through suffering will become great, diamonds in the rough. But not everyone's a diamond, right? And majority of them aren't diamonds. Majority of them end up in crime. Majority of them end up in gangs, in jail, on drugs. There are a lot of destroyed lives. And if at that point the option is we're going to terminate the life or have the life suffer and die over 18, 14, 25 years, I mean, which one's worse at that point?
Well, absolutely on all fronts. Just to clarify, yes, absolutely. The woman is going to have the final say in all matters. I was merely stating that the other person who had a part in the creation of the fetus would have to support the woman in her decision financially and otherwise. Now, terminating the fetus, let's just keep it at that, because we don't want to say terminating the life, because there is no life as of yet. We can say, you know, per, preventing the life from forming or something along those lines, but it's just terminating the fetus at the moment. So that's what we'll state. And when you have all of those things in place to support the woman regardless of her decision, that would be the ideal situation, because the decision is up to her. If she wants to keep the fetus and bring it through term, then she should be supported financially and emotionally and any other way available. And if she wants to terminate it, then she should be supported in an equal fashion, so that she can enjoy the best possible life that she can with the decision that she makes. So all of this just comes down to, it belongs to her. It's her body, it's her choice, and we just have to be there to support her and make it as easy on her as possible. And for the others involved, the let's say the male in the situation, he needs to be sort of kept at a distance as to prevent him from influencing her decision in a negative way. So he can be there, he can support her, and let her come to her own conclusion. Now, we don't want to exclude anyone based on the language that we're using. These are archaic terms that we're forced to utilize. Everybody realizes that language is not as specific as we would all like it to be. It's a bit of a blunt instrument at times. So we don't want to make it seem as though we're not including people who have transitioned into becoming a female and then bearing children. So they get their decision as well, and we will support them, just as much as anybody who started off in life as biologically female. So it it's all the same, no matter the situation. Whoever is carrying the child gets to make that decision because they are burdened with that task, and that's where we all agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad for that clarification that you gave on the, terminating the fetus because it's not a life. But I know that the opposition there will say it is a life, and they'll bring science and say, look, the heart beats then, so we'll call it a life there. So let's be clear. Even if it is a life, that doesn't change the choice that the woman should have. Hot take as that would be, right? She still has that choice because 70% of the time, the father wants nothing to do with that life. The government wants nothing to do with that life outside of the cut that they can get on child support if they're able to find the father. You do not want to pay for her child's life. No one in the audience wants to get up and pay for someone else's decision. We just have to be honest with ourselves and say we don't. So why not give her the option then to not have to suffer through that burden? Why take that option away from her? Why does she have to do an 18-year prison sentence for one mistake?
Indeed. And it could also just be that this person looks around the world and sees that it's not ready for her life to be brought into the world as it is. She may still feel that she has to spend more time being a warrior and cultivating a better world for whatever she would bring into it. So everything has to be just right in order to bring a life into the world. It has to be finances, timing, the environment. So, you don't want to bring a life into the world when it's going to be exposed to heavy metals, air pollution, water pollution. So, we have to respect that this is a big decision for them, and we as males cannot have any real say in what they do with this particular choice. It's for them to decide. They are they will be the mother if it ends up being a decision to keep the fetus, and as a mother they have the the full ability to decide how the child will be raised and brought up in the world, and that includes when and where and if.
Absolutely. Absolutely. brilliantly said. I mean, absolutely, that's brilliant. It's really amazing because at the end of the day, it really is it, as you just said, it takes a community to raise a child. And if you think about it, your first week in college, you just got away from the parents, or maybe you were raised at an orphanage and you just got to college and you make one mistake. Now you don't have a house, you don't have a job, and you're pregnant. I mean, I think that person should have the option to say, I'm sorry, but I can't.
Well, they should never have to apologize. It's their choice. They are entitled to it. It's the natural order of things since the beginning of time. They've always been able to make that decision. There have always been ways for them to terminate the fetus if they feel that it will be brought into a world that will not be supportive to the child. And it all comes down to the motherly instinct and the expected quality of life for that would-be child. We cannot forget that it's it would be horrible for that being to exist just to suffer. So if you foresee that their life will not be one of joy and evolution and knowledge and learning and excitement and enjoyment, then you would be in the wrong in order to bring them into that situation.
Absolutely. I mean,
Right?
I think that's a beautiful way, a beautiful way to place that. And you're absolutely right, comrade. And I apologize for thinking that, or even saying, or even hinting that a woman would have to apologize for making that choice. Because you're right. You're absolutely right. There is no apology needed. That is her choice. It's her body. It's her life. And she deserves to be able to make that choice however she sees fit without apology.
Yes. And remember, any body, as in your physical body, that is used for birthing a child is a vessel responsible for the transportation of a soul from one location into another. The same way that you as a airplane pilot are responsible for the safe transfer of souls from one location to another, these people would be negligent if they didn't consider all aspects of that transfer before doing so to ensure that that soul experiences a joyful, pleasurable life free of extreme suffering and hopelessness. So let's continue to give them our support and understanding and realize that we as men simply need to step back and listen.
And of course, everyone, it is only by confronting the uncomfortable truths that we can all ascend together.